Hello, it's Devora from the Wise Woman Path. So happy to be here with you today. How are you? I am very excited to talk to you about this three-step process in moving through the challenges in your life to get to the wisdom and the learning. So this was inspired by a conversation that I had this very day with a client, and it really stayed with me over and over again in my head. And I thought, this is really, really important information that I need to share. And it's information that is just sort of trapped in my head and trapped in my office and the work that I do. And whether you are someone on the journey, on a coaching journey or a therapy journey, or you're just wanting to do personal growth and work through whatever's happening in your life to get to a more contented place, this is for you. So what I wanted to share is that the hardest and darkest and most challenging times are the times for the greatest growth and the greatest wisdom. And we're going to go over this three-step process on how to make the best use of your hard times to get something out of it and actually feel some hope and get to contentment and get to a place where you even have personal transformation on the other side of those challenges. So if you are right now in a really dark and struggling time, I wanted to tell you that I'm here with you, not trying to rush you along in the process at all. What we all need during the darkest time is that sense of, okay, something is going to come out of this. And then when we've moved past the big crisis, then we can actually perhaps do some growth about it afterwards. So when you're in the thick of it, you're not necessarily going to be able to do all three of these steps, but just knowing that there is hope and that there's something that you can do is what is the most helpful thing during that really hard time. And like I said, afterwards, you can think about, okay, what can I learn from this? And, we're always in a time of growth. If I were to ask you, what are you struggling with right now in your life? Or what do you hope is different? You're always going to come up with something, right? If you're alive, then you're still growing, or you have the opportunity to. So I'm going to ask you to notice where you are in the process of something really challenging, and then see, which of these steps you can use right now. But just know that these steps are available to you. So if this is helpful to you, I'd love to hear any comments or questions. Anybody else who's kind of going through a hard time and saying, how do I get through this? Where can I get, how and where and how can I get the learning? Please share it along. And we're going to take it step by step through the three steps, which are noticing. Number 2 is acknowledging. And then number 3 is what can you learn and what can you do about it? And that might seem really simple, but honestly, when you're just in it, it just sucks. You're just feeling depressed or anxious or lost or fearful, doubtful, very strongly emotional, in sad or fear or anger. And there really is nothing. There really are no steps when you're in it. So knowing that there is something you can do about it is where we're going to go today. So let's dive in a little bit. What do I mean exactly when I say noticing? This is something that I think therapists and life coaches have forever been talking about with clients. And I don't know that anybody has really ever explained to you what exactly that means. So noticing, in my opinion, as someone who is a spiritual coach and a body-centered therapist, is really about getting really aware of exactly what is happening in your thoughts, in your emotions, and in your body. And I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me this morning. My 13-year-old son, Josh, went on a school trip this morning with his entire grade to Washington, D.C., and I dropped him off at school really early this morning. And surprising even to me, because this kid has been going to overnight camp, for 7 weeks for many, many summers, I found it sort of hard to leave when I was leaving the school. And I thought, this is so strange. I was noticing, he was saying, of course, he's 13, and he's saying, get out of here. And I was saying, let me just give you one more hug. And I walked out to my car, and I sat in my car for about 5 minutes and just noticed that I felt really sad that I was leaving him for 4 days and that he was going to go have an adventure without me. And, this is something, if you're a parent, I'm sure you can relate to. There are times when we say, oh, I just need time away from my kid or kids. And other times where you say, wow, they're going to go have an experience or an adventure without me, and I want to be part of it or want to know about it, or, that moment of separation, it feels really hard. And I noticed that I felt really tight in my throat, and I could feel, sort of my shoulders hunching, and I just felt sort of these waves of sadness. And my impulse when I got into the car was to just immediately turn on the radio and immediately give myself a distraction. And because this first step of noticing is something that I'm very aware of and something that I use in my own life, I decided to drive the whole half an hour to work in complete silence. I never turned the radio on, never turned a podcast on, didn't catch up on any videos on my phone. I just was in silence and let myself feel that sadness. And the thing that is so hard is to notice. You have to be able to bear whatever it is that you're going to notice there. So if your mind is racing, as one of the client I was talking to about this morning was, anxious and mind is racing and wanting to slow things down or not pay attention to that feeling, you're not going to notice. You're going to skip over it and do everything you can do. You want to know what smoking and drinking and gambling and every kind of addiction is about most of the time is avoiding the noticing. So we do a whole hell of a lot in our lives to skip this step. And I have to tell you, you cannot skip this step. If you want to be able to get through the darkest time and certainly get to the other place with the transformation, you're going to have to sit with noticing. So take a moment right now and see what you notice now. I asked you the question a few moments ago, what are you struggling with? What is challenging in your life right now? For a moment, let that come to you and practice, see what you notice. Is there something happening with you in your life emotionally? Is there something with your work, something in relationships, something with health? Excuse me. So really noticing means, let me say it again, what are the thoughts, what are the emotions, and what are the sensations in your body? So when you notice, you have a chance to really sit with it, not avoid it over here, not try to move through it, not try to rush it, not try to deny it. And also, very important, not try to make it bigger either. Some of us, me included, can get kind of dramatic at times. So noticing is just simply taking the assessment. It's like taking your pulse or taking your temperature and saying, okay, where am I right now? And that is the noticing. Once you notice, then there needs to be a place of acceptance. Because what happened, to get back to my example of dropping Josh off this morning, is I immediately had sort of this judgment or this voice saying, this is crazy. He goes to sleepaway camp for 7 weeks and I'm fine being away from him. And I'm not, an enmeshed mother, and I'm not this and I'm not that. And it didn't really resonate with me. It surprised me that I had this feeling. So then there needed to be an acceptance, like, wow, he's going on a plane and going on an adventure for 4 days, never been on a plane without me. And I've always been there to sort of monitor and to share it with him and have that experience. And quite honestly, I needed to just simply accept that I felt like I was kind of being left behind. Got in my car to drive to work. He's going on a fun adventure in DC with his friends and with school. So there was a huge space for acceptance. The noticing and the acceptance go sort of hand in hand, but you can notice and then completely not accept. So you want to watch for things with the accepting. Is there judgment? Is there denying? Is there minimizing? Is there, as I was saying earlier, making it bigger? You want to really be in that place of acceptance. Is that place that we want to get to in mindfulness, in meditation, where we are just simply saying, that is, which is a little bit different than noticing, right? Now, if we want to take it to step 3, which is now what do I do for change? This example was not something that I needed, that I was in incredible pain and needed to do something to feel better. But, it's the next step in moving to change in this example with this morning with me is not really that relevant because it's not a big thing, but it's saying, wow, I am a parent who sometimes feels that way, who has a lot of trouble detaching, where I might deny that I am that person. Or, I have an opportunity to take that feeling and appreciate my relationship with him a little bit more. And I have an opportunity, since I'm going to be kid-free for the next 4 days, using this example, is I have a chance for transformation and to not be in that lack of noticing or the lack of accepting, where I might be, that might affect the rest of my week, that I had noticed and I accepted, and now I can have an opportunity to move through and let go and say, wow, I'm going to have some flexibility and freedom and independence this week, that having noticed and accepted, now I can have that. That would sort of be the example of transformation here. But for you, when, if we go back to that feeling of where you're struggling right now, what is the transformation that you can have would be much more about where is the learning or where is the wisdom in something deep that you can know about what you are feeling in those darkest of times. So you really cannot rush through these steps. You really need to stay in number 1, noticing, number 2, accepting, and then number 3, after that, saying, what can I do for change? And sometimes you might have an opportunity to say, wow, you might be really unhappy in a job, and the transformation for change might be, I really have to leave this job, and I want to really notice when I'm looking for my next job or launching my entrepreneurial idea, what needs to be different this time, that you've really gotten all your information. You've sort of gathered the information on that sort of treasure hunt of your own experience and said, now I can use that in the future. So it's really important to be with all 3 steps. And with whatever you're going through now, again, if you're in the deep, deep thick of the pain of it, really devastation, if you're really struggling with anxiety or depression, or you're really unhappy in a job, or having, a personal crisis in your life with where you are right now, then it's really hard to get through all the steps, but know that they exist. And know that right now, the noticing and where you can move gently into the accepting, even if it's, I accept that I'm having trouble accepting this, that is good enough for this moment. So there is a process to move through, and there is an opportunity, no matter how dark the time is. For 30 years, I've been working in coaching and therapy with clients. I have worked with over 1,500 people. I have actually gone back and thought about how many clients have I worked with, each month and each year, and it is about 1,500 people. That's a lot of research that I have done on how people move through things. And I can tell you that there is the greatest opportunity for growth from the darkest and hardest times. So do not despair when you're in the darkness that there is nothing on the other end. It might not be time for that growth yet. I absolutely get that, but know that that exists. And for you, if you're not in the crisis and the thick of it at this exact moment while you're watching this, then know that you can look back on experiences you have had and get the learning and change when you can get that 3rd step from the other 2. And look, even if you knew at the time that you went through it, you weren't really noticing and you weren't really accepting, you can still go back. That's something that you can use your time machine for, and go back and reflect upon those times to make that change in the future, because we always want to learn from what we have experienced in life before. And that's why I call my wisdom the wise woman business. That's why I call my business the Wise Woman Path, because we gain the wisdom through those experiences. And after we go through all of those steps, we can say, now I either understand why I went through that, or I don't really understand why that happened to me, but what can I take from it? And that's how we can make the best use out of those dark times in our life. So I would love to hear from you about what this has meant to you, if there's anything that's been interesting about this, if you're wanting to know more. Does it leave you with questions? Yeah, Devorah, that's all well and good, but throw it at me. I'm not about fluff. If you know me, you know that I am really looking to get to the roots of things. As the metaphor of that tree, I want to get to the roots of things and bring it up through the trunk and through the limbs and the branches out to the leaves, so that all those little edges and all those challenges in your life can be addressed from what is at the basic core. So if you have comments, please leave them. If this is helpful, share it. And if you are struggling now, if you have been watching this and say, yeah, these 3 steps, that's all interesting, but I really do need more help, that's when you can send me a message and check out what I'm offering on the Wise Woman Path and see if there are ways that I can help you, because I am all about personal transformation, moving from that place of discontent, of anxiety and questioning, to that place of opportunity, of growth, of freedom, and of personal transformation. That's what I live for. So I'm glad that you were here with me, and please send me a message and let me know either how I can help you or what you're wanting to know more about. So it's a blessing to be here with you today on the Wise Woman Path, and I wish you namaste and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.